When you don't know what you don't know, you can't fix what needs fixing. This is the dilemma of mind blindness. Hi, I'm Steve.
And I'm Lib. And together, we're Lib and Steve. One way to describe mind blindness is by looking at theory of mind. Theory of mind is the ability to form theories how someone is feeling based on what they say or by observing their facial expressions or body language. A great example is playing hide and go seek with a toddler. A toddler believes that if they themselves cannot see anyone, no one can see them. So the mind blindness of those with Asperger's can be similar because they're thinking, if I don't feel it or perceive it, then they don't feel it or perceive it.
When I had Asperger's, I was mind blind. Boy, was I ever. And I needed a neurotypical to lead me through the jungle of relationships and help me decipher what people were thinking. And ultimately, I needed a neurotypical person to help me believe that healing was possible. To the extent that Asperger's affected my ability to understand human relationships, I think it also affected my ability to fully understand my relationship with God.
That is so important to process. So Steve, can you tell us a bit more about what you mean? Can you describe a specific relational challenge that you had with people and then relate that to the God dynamic?
I think so. Because everything relational or social processed through my very logical brain, my conclusion was that all brains, given the right logic inputs, would come to the same conclusion. If I thought our family should go to eat at XYZ restaurant on Tuesday because the stars aligned a certain way, I naturally assumed Lib's brain would draw the same conclusion. And if you didn't, it's just because you weren't trying. Obviously, this type of thinking led to consistent conflict. I thought you were not trying or just refusing to engage your logic. And you thought I was just being a big jerk. I totally had no idea that you were letting me know what your thoughts, preferences, and ideas were by the tone you used, the words you chose, your body language, or facial expressions. Now, bring that logical process over to relating to God, and it's even more confusing than relating to you. Logically, I understood that a sinner in need of a savior. It made sense that my penalty had been paid for by Jesus' death. It made no sense of how I was to live as a Christian. Example, I totally get tithing. 10% simple. Just moving the decimal point, I love it. Offerings, totally different. Who do I give to? How much? When? How do you know? It gets complicated. I couldn't figure any of it out. There wasn't a rule to govern this. Lib, how did this affect you?
Well, again, when you don't know what you don't know, you can't fix what needs fixing. But I would try so hard. And this was all before I knew anything about Asperger's. We had something called the purple marriage folder. Remember that? I would put so much thought into describing my frustration in writing. We would get away for a weekend and talk about what I wrote in the purple marriage folder. And because there was no distraction of children, it would seem to work for about 24 hours. My hopes would soar and then everything would resume to the same old, same old. That is the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So Steve, tell us how it feels different for you now. How did your development of theory of mind happen after your neural pathways were touched by God and healed? Because then there was the task of learning the new skill, forming theories of how someone feels based on what they say or by observing their facial expressions or body language, a whole new skill.
First off, the little dynamo of anxiety that spun within my soul all the times had been replaced with shalom, peace. Intuitively, I knew the world made no sense to me nor I to it, and that confusion was the source of anxiety. Because I processed everything logically, the strange decisions people made led me to be hypercritical, judgmental jerk, and to dislike a whole lot of people. After healing, I felt true peace within for the first time. Going forward, when I sensed peace had left, I actively determined where it went and worked to get it back. Often that meant looking at what I was thinking and feeling towards and about people and trying to figure out why that was the case. Over time, I have learned to differentiate between someone who is being offensive and when they are just being human. I am so much better at considering the source and reasons why people act and behave as they do.
Well, we hope that this can plant a seed of hope for you. And Steve, let's move on to a question from a wife. What can you do when someone never hears your point of view? So I want to say first that it is more than okay to come up with boundaries for a situation that gets verbally heated. You might say, I'll be taking a little break, and when you feel you're ready to have a real back and forth dialogue, let me know. But I highly recommend courageously communicating your needs when things are calm. Have very black and white, direct bullet points to deliver, either verbally or in writing and without emotion. Have clear rules about what you want to discuss. And consider a good therapist who understands neurodiverse relationships. Steve, what would you say?
I'm not sure if you are familiar with the Kylo 5 principles that come from Danny Silk and Loving on Purpose, but if you're not, you need to be, and we'll put the information below in the show notes. Does someone never hearing mean like that does not ever, rarely, once in a blue moon? I think it's important to be as realistic with your expectations as you can. The question I would ask is, where is your husband's heart in relation to you? Does he want to love you and sacrifice for you? Is he truly trying? If so, look for the moments or occasions when he truly hears your heart and try to replicate those dynamics as much as you can, so you can be seen and heard. All of us are unique individuals, and while ASD may have some common traits and characteristics, how it plays out in any one person will look totally different than the next. Experiment, try different things, find something that works and stick with it. Get help, but make sure it's someone who understands the uniqueness of neurodiverse couples.
And I would add that what Steve is suggesting really will work better if there has been a diagnosis, because until you know what you previously didn't know, it will feel like the formula for insanity with everything you try. But remember, hope is on the way. Our breakthrough makes a way for your breakthrough. And don't forget to send us your questions.
Please like us and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with anyone who could benefit.